Hello, I'm Jung Jung-ho, teacher teaching information in Daejeon High School. Today, I'm going to teach artificial intelligence. And lastly, let's have a practical exercise using Orange 3 program. Now, let's begin. To begin with, I will tell you a story. Google took over a small startup company in England on January 2014. It took over a very small company which had the 3 founders and around 10 research workers, paying $400 million. This company is DeepMind. This DeepMind made after 2 years and mastered Baduk-winning Lee Sedol. In this process, syndrome called AlphaGo shock appeared and the era of AI came. Here is the importance. 99% average people think that the speed of the computer extremely quicken. The speed is much faster than we think. Or because of fast calculation, it masters Baduk. However, such the idea are wrong. AlphaGo mastered Baduk through self-judgment. By studying data of Baduk, the record of Baduk. These days, AI as a technology, which the machine study and think becomes the conversation topic. The specific reason is because it is the solution of the unsolved problems by humans. For example, this is COVID-19 era. We think that we can solve the problems such as incurable disease. We don't know when typhoon will come in summer, or we can't forecast snowstorm in winter. So AI can be the solution for such unsolved problems by humans. Before AlphaGo, AI Watson made in IBM won the first prize in the greatest quiz show of America in offline. Later, it is a little awkward to do internship for cancer diagnosis in America, but after studying cancer diagnosis, it is actually used in hospital. It is like distant future, but Watson has been used in 6 hospitals such as Gill Hospital, Catholic Hospital, and etc. for cancer diagnosis. It is appreciated that its accuracy is higher than the one of people. Like this, AI changed all our society. In old times, if we had some problems or concerns, we asked the elderly person in the village or professionals. But now, AI is alternative. It looked like that we won AlphaGo, which played Baduk 3 billion times, not Lee Sedol, who played for 30 years. So AI is awesome in that it looks for the different solution with the traditional solution. We have discovered the answers putting existing data into regulation. Simply put, we made y1 by putting x1 into y plus equals to ax plus b. On the other hand, especially machine learning discovers deregulation with data and answers. What is the answer if we add from 1 to 5? It is 15. Then it is 55 if we add from 1 to 10. Next, it is 5050 when we add from 1 to 100. On the other hand, machine learning and AI gets the regulation n times n-1/2 with the data answers such as 1 to 5 for 15, 1 to 10 for 55, and 1 to 100 for 5050. With this, regardless of any numbers in the place of n, the answer can be predicted. This is the solution that AI solves problems, and the point that we can know why AI writes timely like this. For that, the data to learn machine is so critical. Looking at here, there is an English sentence representing well the value of data. In this way, AI era has come since big data boom in our society. It is inevitable. So what is AI? AI is the technology which realizes the computer program with learning ability, inferential ability, perception ability, understanding ability. If we say it like this, it sounds a little difficult. Simple put, jobs were divided into one for humans and the one for a machine. For example, if you are asked to multiply from 1 to 100, although you can do, you might be unwilling to do it. Multiplying, not adding. The machine performs this kind of jobs well. If the computer is ordered to multiply 1 to 100, it takes less than 0.1 seconds to gain the answer. Like this, there is the size that the computer does well, whereas the computer can't have the conversation, natural language. It is believed that abilities such as conversation, perceiving emotions, or interfering are applicable towards the area of human ability. However, AI shows superior ability to humans after the computer. Machine occupies the field of human ability. AI has 4 categories. The lowest one is AI, which acts humanly. And the goal is AI, which thinks rationally. The current stage is AI, which acts humanly. For example, consequently, autonomous car is made to get the human to act humanly, and it is AI of the lowest category. But like this, despite AI of the lowest category, when we watch it sharply change our society, we have to study and follow AI. There is machine learning called machine learning within AI. Next developed machine learning is deep learning. AI society that we can say is to be improved by such technology such as machine learning or deep learning, not AI itself. Therefore, it is not important to just use AI speaker and utilize AI platform and tools such as VR or AR, but it is important to solve the unsolved problems unsolved by us. By applying algorithm of machine learning and deep learning inside AI. So strictly speaking, we are living in deep learning era despite AI era. Thus, from now on, I'm going to explain machine learning. I'll explain it so easily. As you saw earlier, I told you that AI discovers the regulation through the data and answers. Generally, the regulation can be expressed with one line, so you can think that machine learning is to find the line expressing best the data and the answers. On the left side, X has 1, 2, 3, Y has 1, 2, 3, and on the right side, plane coordinates. If so, what line can we think of? We can think of simple line like y equals to x. The reason that we think immediately is because we have intuition. However, there is no intuition in machine. If so, how does machine find such line? First, the line expressing data well is the line of least error. If I found a line, the difference between answer and the actual value is an error. This size is an error. Then finding the line of the least error is machine learning. If so, does machine with no intuition find the line of the least error? Take a look at this. Above all, because machine has fast calculation ability, it randomly draws lines. So I'm going to draw the line towards the green line based on this blue. I'm going to draw the lines of one kind or another. What happens to arrow towards the green? Of course, arrow is bigger. The higher the straight line is, the bigger arrow is. On the contrary, let's draw the red line based on this blue line like this. I will draw the line in this way. What happens? Does error increase or decrease? By the way, in this case, error also increases. So the error of data increases in both going up and going down based on the line of least error. So we can express the graph for error with ball like this, right? Let's randomly dot here. Then if the angle is positive number, go to the left, vice versa. And if the angle is negative value, go to the right. In this process, it reaches the angle 0, the differential value 0, the lowest area. This dot is the line we have found. In other words, it is the least error. With this, machine finds the least error by going and coming after drawing random lines. That's gradient descent method. If you find a representative line of the data like this, by entirely looking at the data, we can predict some value. For example, I studied for 90 hours. I can predict that I can get 75 points. Like the right, we can find the line classifying A and B. Machine learning is the task finding the line. Are you sure to understand this now? If we deepen a little more, machine learning is divided into supervised learning and unsupervised learning. Enhanced learning has developed since then. Due to AlphaGo, it becomes broadly popular, but it emerged after that. Enhanced learning is based on compensation system. Usually think of scores. If you make the best way, the score is given. That is, compensation is given. Next, if you make the least way, the minus score is given, not compensation. The punishment is given. That is principle of enhanced learning. The difference of supervised learning and unsupervised learning is a difference from studying with labeled data or studying with unlabeled data. It is said that this label is the answer, but it is little different meaning with the answer. For example, let's suppose that we make image recognition AIs sorting a pumpkin and watermelon in the supermarket. If so, there is a tag of the watermelon or the pumpkin. If we study with the tag including barcode, how much pumpkin it can be seen that we can study with labeled data. This is supervised learning. It is 10,000 won for the tree without tag. If we study without a tag or with unlabeled data, it is unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is divided into classification and prediction. The prediction has only one regression algorithm. It is called prediction regression. On the other hand, classification has a variety of algorithms such as support vector machine, random forest, or decision-making tree model, and etc. Consequently, there is a little difference, but finding the line of least error is equivalent. Think easily of difference of classification and prediction, which is subjective and objective. If you predict whether it rains or not tomorrow, it is classification. What percentage of rain is tomorrow is prediction. Besides, unsupervised learning is called gotcha answer data, unlabeled data. Because it's studied with this data, it is used to find the hidden structure or trait of data. So the most representative algorithm is clustering. Therefore, there are supervised learning and unsupervised learning in machine learning. This is classified into studying with labeled data or unlabeled data. Classification is objective and prediction is subjective. Eventually, machine learning is the technology based on linear regression. Looking at here, properties are called dependent variable. Dependent variable is 1, x. The test score is predicted with the dependent variable, such as examination hour, study hour. However, if it is linear regression, data will be much richer. Change algorithm a little. Furthermore, if there are various dependent variables, properties such as condition of the day, the score of similar subject, or the score of right before semester, as well as study hours, we predict more exact probability. As a result, I emphasize again that the goal of machine learning is to find a line. This line is the way towards prediction answer. How about the contents? Do you understand them a little? Although machine learning and AI are somewhat awkward concepts. Because of such technologies, changing the current era, it is a little difficult. Despite difficulties, I try to explain them as easily as I can. Please understand through this, and it is good to study later more. The next is history of AI. Surprisingly, the concept of AI has emerged since 1950s. It reaches the current deep learning era through the 2 springs and winters. As previously mentioned, I'm going to explain the most developed technology, deep learning. I will tell you a story for deep learning. A person thinks of interesting thought. A Drosophila avoids winds, its food, and even flaps its wing that we can't do. The brain of the Drosophila is only 5 grams. Despite such a so small brain, it eats food, avoids winds, and flaps its wings. So one person has an interesting notion. Listen carefully, he thinks of making the artificial thinking. Saying that again, he thought of making the artificial thinking. So the project started creating the artificial thinking. Artificial neurophilus is needed to make the artificial thinking, an artificial cell is needed to make artificial neuropilus. So we call this synapse, artificial cell from biology. He made this simple linear function. We have ever studied this at middle school or high school course. Like this, several neuron delivers the stimulus and delivers the stimuli to the next cell if it arrives at fixed critical point. So we call such stimulus x1, x2. The number of cells will increase like x3, x4. And the weighted value to the cell is called W1, W2, and W3. The artificial cell is to multiply such stimuli and its weighted value, add them, and add bias. So properties of added value. First formula can be many. Although there are many properties such as x1, x2, x3, when the first formula goes to fixed critical points, it is printed. The artificial cell was made these cells that we think it is little complicated with simple or linear equation. There might be the part that you can't understand. For example, we can tap ourselves on the shoulder or hit ourselves. Such the strength of stimulus is called weighted value. And this bias might make you confused. I'll give you an example. I'll tap the next person on the shoulder. Then the next person reacts just what? However, if I tap the next person in the eye, what happens? He or she might move backwards more, be angry, or say bad or rough words. Despite the same strength, the reaction and thinking become different depending on what cells stimulates. This is bias, or it can be preferences. Do you understand? If so, finally I will give you more example. After I work very hard all day, or I study very hard all day skipping lunch, I come home. When I come home, boiling meat smells, boiling pork smells. If so, how do you feel? My mouth is watering and approach the tail right now. However, when I come home exhausted, boiling broccoli smells. How do you feel? I might say, what? It is not delicious, and then I go to bed. My mouth is not watering. Despite strength of same food, our reaction and thinking emerge differently. This is just bias. It results in the funny thinking. The way to make artificial neuron for making artificial thinking is stimulus. The artificial neuron is created after multiplying weighted value to many stimuli. Adding all this and lastly add bias. If they reach the critical point, the way to deliver to the next cell. This artificial neuron is called perceptron. So collected cells can solve the things that we can't solve. In this way, a cell on the left is just one cell. By arranging many cells in parallel and putting many layers, neuron is created. The artificial cell becomes neuron, and then it becomes artificial thinking we think about. This one becomes a cell. If so, formula becomes so complicated. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 linear expression is added here, multiplied and added, so it might be complicated. The complicated thinking becomes artificial neuron. It becomes artificial neurophilus and make artificial thinking. Therefore, I brought more objective resources. I myself made this. There is x1 line. This is vertical line. On vertical line basis, the left is orange and the right is x2, or horizontal line. Based on it, the top is blue line and the bottom is orange line. We can divide the blue data and orange data with those two lines, vertical and horizontal lines. What do we do to divide blue data and orange data? The line similar to circle is needed. If so, we can make this line with vertical and horizontal lines. You might think that it is impossible, but deep learning is possible. First, combine two lines and make the three lines. After reversing x1 a little more, multiplying 0.32, and after reversing 2x minus and then multiply it, putting a little bit weighted value. So P1 emerges. A little oblique line appears in the state that P1 reverses. P2 also multiply minus 0.40 to x1 minus 0.31 to x2, then make a horizontal line. With the same way, make the line for P3 like this, and then combine the lines for one more. After combining P1, P2, P3 lines, combine Q1, Q2, Q3. If we multiply P1 to 1.1, P2 to minus 1.6, P3 to 1.1, this line appears. Next, Q2 appears like this, Q3 appears like this. Lastly, if we combine Q1, Q2, and Q3, and if we multiply 3.1 to Q1, 0.75 to Q2, minus 1.1 to Q3, one line like this appears. What do you think of this? For the first time, we think that it is impossible to divide orange data and blue data with x1 and x2, horizontal and vertical line. Even though we learn AI now, you might think how it is possible. However, as we are learning earlier, if we put linear function like artificial cell, neurophilus in parallel, we lie the three layers and combine them. We can divide such data which we think it is impossible. In this way, if we put one by one in parallel, we can't do many things. However, if the number of cells and layers increase, we can solve the problems that we can't think of. For example, we can distinguish cursive. So there can be a question in this point. How do we know 3.1, 0.75, and 1.1? We can doubt like this. Do we think that if we know it, we can solve? How do these numbers come? We have ever done. As AI put weighted value to this, reverse this, put weighted value after reversing, and go and come, and result comes. The influence of mathematics decreases a little bit, but students who do hard to do to the end and finished the questions such as peeling up a tree. Therefore, finally, this student is right. The student is the left, and the right is right. The middle is AI. It did all. Did this, that with many ways. This is right after doing all. AI doesn't know why. Doing all result in the answer, so AI is harder. So we call this weak AI. Because weak AI doesn't know why, it is specialized in special tasks. For example, we can invest stock with AI speaker, or can we use automatic driving? No. The specialized AI is weak AI. If you know why and other technology is solved and developed more. Strong broadly used AI emerges. Therefore, we have solved obstruction one by one, and 50-60 years have passed. Finally, AI has sharply developed to machine learning, and current deep learning arrives starting from 2010. This is about AI that I told you. Now, after listening to AI and understand a little, let's have a practical exercises. Everyone will say learning. I did hak. So you do sip. So learning is completed. Let's make AI model use Orange 3 program. First, we need to install Orange 3. Please search Orange 3 on the internet or enter the link on the top of here. If you enter Orange download, the version is upgraded. Please download this Orange. When we download, you continue to do next step in this way. The most important thing is that Orange is based on Python programming language. It is AI model utilizing algorithm with Python programming language. So we should install Anaconda and Miniconda. We have to install the thing Python, which is responsible for translation. The attentive point is to definitely click System Pass and Pass Environment setting in this site to prevent mistakes to be well installed. As continuously clicking, and clicking, please wait for this screen and check it. It's very important. Then we have a practical exercise at once. When we learn the software or AI, we feel difficult because such platform can't be installed well. Please take care of this point. After finishing installation, I uploaded link here. Here, we are going to make AI prediction diabetes. This is a data make the model, so please download this. So what do we do? After downloading Orange 3 and prediction data of diabetes, let's have a practical exercises. So we will do by this. If it is downloaded, I'm going to continue to have AI practical exercise returning back. The second, as mentioned earlier, we will have a practical exercising using Orange 3. Having a practical exercise is similar to studying the computer, regardless of doing program firsthand. We are going to make machine study. So after installing Orange 3, this window appears. there is a tap tying widget. This is the order making AI model. The data is first, so bring data and then trim data, and then look into data. Next, make AI model. Evaluation is the other making AI model. Unsupervised learning has just learning widget. From now on, we are going to make AI model the most fundamental AI model. I will show that machine can study from this simple one. I open the Excels. Opening empty Excel, after putting X and Y here, I will insert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you do this? I will show you a little bit. I will insert 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100 in Y. And I will insert X and Y at the bottom. The two should be at the same time. Sometimes there are cases that insert lowercase here, uppercase here. Both are lower cases. Then there is a case Y missing. You should insert Y here. So I will insert 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 here and leave empty box on the left, right. I will save the one in the top. I will name training data in the main screen. From now on, you might understand. Let's study with this. If we finish studying, what do we do next? Test. We have to estimate. I will save test data on the bottom in the main screen. Despite so simple one, we made train data and test data. It's done. I will call it in data. The way to call in data, there are 4 ways to call in data. SQL data is used in DB. That is not used a lot. When we call in SQL, it is used. Then here dataset is the data provided from ORAN3. Such data are the ones refined for AI. For example, after the operation of heart disease, survival prediction data, next data to predict the house price in Boston. The most famous data is to classify the kind of iris. In making AI, gathering proper data for beginners is dataset. There are CSV file import calling in file divided by comma, but we can receive CSV in this file, Excel file. In general, we use this widget file best. So we will call in data without this file widget. There are the 3 ways to call in data. This is the way to insert file by clicking, calling in, dragging, and clicking the right. So please double-click this file. Next, do you see ... of folder shape? Here, I will bring the data we made, train data on the main screen. If we brought train data, as you can see, there are XY. The type is numeric. The type usually consists of categorical text datetime. We represent yes or no into 1 or 0, or male or female into 1, 2. Despite the number, classified data is categorical. Numeric is the type of number. Text means text. Datetime means date or time. So please decide this type. Looking at here, role is decided. Usually, it predicts target with feature, properties, features is properties, and independent variable. Please think that the target is the object that we will predict dependent variable. Meta is like a serial number. In the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where this data might be needed, not be needed, it interrupts. Such things are meta. Furthermore, if you think something is unnecessary to study machine learning, it's skip. For example, in making AI predicting the lifespan, if the international all data are absurdly included, rather it can interrupt our data studying. In that case, we skip. Let's predict Y with X. So X is feature, properties, and Y is target. If so, gray shape appears. Let's apply and leave it. So we have to check that data call in well. As seen here, the data table is in the second cell. Connecting it into the data table is done. Then you double-click. You can check data inserted well. As you know, you can realize that simple data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100 that we made are inserted well. Because we save Y as a target, target is placed in the front. So we brought data will like this. Furthermore, there is one good tip. If looking at here, there is view next to widget. Press display widget on top on view. If this click the other, this screen continuously appears on the top. In my case, I feel comfortable when this screen is on the top. So this data came. We check whether we bought the data well. What is the next order? It's to examine data. Looking at here, there are widgets with various functions that visualize and look at data, such as scatter, plot, bar graph, and Venn diagram. Therefore, let's look at the representative one, that's scatter plot. The strongest point of Orange is to connect only lines like this. That's all. We can examine visualized data by implementing scatter plot. We can recognize all 120, 140, 360, 480. If you see here, we can set up color into Y or X. Next, we can change shape, size, label, and adjust the size like this. We can express color based on the region, or we can draw a joint line like this. Definitely, the good point of Orange 3 is that visual effect is nice. You might feel like we are doing trivial things. Even though we insert 5 into X, 5 into Y, and click mouse several times, are we doing something great? If people next to me look at my screen, they might misunderstand that we are analyzing something great. This is the advantage of Orange 3. So we examine whether we brought data well or not. Now we make AI model. Making model is so easy. linear regression. Let's bring linear regression. So let's study linear regression with data we brought. We started, so we can change a name pressing F2. If we press the right rename, we can change our name. Let's change to classify. We made the model with trained data. Next, we have to estimate. How do we test? We do estimate with this data. I'm going to call in one more file. Bring test data we made in the main screen. A note of caution is we have to make y into target. After making target, I will change the name into change data to classify. And we can evaluate on the last top here. I'm going to bring prediction. We studied linear regression with trained data. I'm evaluating tests with tested data with this model. The reason that X appear is because linear regression is supervised learning. It studies with fixed answer. And I intentionally didn't insert answers. Therefore, error appears. Never mind. Thus, this result appears. Can you see it? It studied with trained data, studied linear regression. It applied this to test data. I inserted 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to X, but I didn't put number into Y. However, looking at here, prediction price from linear regression is 120, 140, 160, 180, and 200. What do you think of? Very fundamental, but you might feel a little embarrassed. I was the same for the first time. I gave data of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100 to machine and make it study. Next, we didn't say 120, 140, 160, 180, and 200, but machine predicted with linear regression. It accurately predicts in accordance with my intention. So after making the two data within short time, I made it study with linear regression algorithm. And take a test. I can know it accurately predict. If I emphasize one more time, I didn't say Y value. Despite it, the machine exactly predict. How do you feel? That's linear regression. Please make the simplest, the most fundamental AI. We called in data for 10 or 15 minutes and make machine study, we predict. You can turn off this data and save this. Or you can save file with another name. I'm going to just erase it. I will predict diabetes at the beginning as mentioned earlier. Likewise, I will call in data. Is there address of first class? Please go to the address and call in diabetes data upload. Here, intense 520 is seen. It means the data of 520 were asked. What is gender? How frequently do you go to the restroom? Are you thirsty? Do you have the sharp change of weight? Or are you weak? I asked a total of 15 questions. So it is right, 1, or wrong, 0. I frequently go to restroom. If so, 0. I feel thirsty a lot. If so, 1. There is 15 questions like this. The last class presents whether diabetic is. So I asked 520 to 15 questions. The last one, 16th, means whether diabetic is. We are going to judge whether diabetic is or not with 15 properties of 520 and 15 questions. So diabetic is the target. Let's predict with 15 properties. Let's check whether we brought data well with data table. First, we can recognize that 520 brought. Because diabetic is the target, it is the first. People at the top have nearly diabetes. In the middle, not diabetes. There are 15 questions including gender, polyuria, thirst, hair loss, obesity, weak muscle, and etc. It's so simple, just yes or no survey. So let's omit visualization. I recommend that you try to do whenever you are available. We are going to do model learning. As I told you earlier, there are classification and prediction in supervising learning. What is classification? Subjective. Prediction is objective. It is opposite. Classification is objective. Prediction is subjective. We are classifying whether diabetic is, so it's objective. Linear regression is not used because it is prediction algorithm. As I mentioned in the first class, classification has a variety of algorithms, such as support vector machine, KNN, random forest. Next, neural network is deep learning. I will teach with support vector machine that I first clicked. Before that, if we study with 520 data and take a test, it's not effective. Studying with 520 data and doing test is similar to taking National College entrance exam with textbook. However, 7 to 3, 8 to 2, this is free. Like this, if we divide 7 to 3, study with data of 70%, and tests with data of 30%. It is like to take National College entrance exam with textbooks. So let's divide data into 3 to 7 or 8 to 2. Here there is data sampler. Where is data sampler? It's not seen well. Here it is. I'll put data sampler under the data table and connect like this. If connecting, whether I will divide 70% or 80%, I will divide 7 to 3. Here, there are 364, 70%, and 156 is test. If connecting like this, 113 are inserted. This is that 30% is inserted. Support vector machine algorithm. Wait a minute. I will just connect data sampler like this. If so, 70% is inserted. Because we started with this, I'm going to evaluate. I will evaluate with another one. Remaining data 30%. So do we change the position? I set remaining data 30% to test. I will study. And if I connect this, it's test. So let's see. Test train is 364. Test 30% is 156. After 156, come and study support vector machine algorithm is model. I predict with this model. Looking at this, class is the actual answer. Looking at support vector machine, it is prediction. Is it right? It is actual diabetes patient. It predicted diabetes with 99% probability. The second is actual diabetes. It predicted diabetes with 97% probability, right? If scrolling down, they are nearly right. This is wrong. There are wrong ones in the middle. We can know that it can predict with very high probability. Most prediction is right. So we can see like this. If we see here is CA. It is classification accuracy. That's percent the number of entire cases. So we can recognize that it shows 95% accuracy. We brought data and divide 7 to 3 and it's 70%. We made support vector study with 364 diabetes data and it's 30%. We test with 156 and recognize that it shows 95 accuracy. It is very high accuracy. If you put 15 questions into accelerator, you can predict growth onset diabetes of 95%. Looking at more, there is confusion matrix. If you press here, this matrix appears. Actually, the cases it accurately predicts non-diabetes are 53, and the cases that it accurately matched diabetes are 95. The wrong cases are 2 and 6 each. The cases of the 8 are wrong among 156. It predicted 148. So it matched the probability of 95%. With this way, we brought data for short time, divided data 7 to 3, studied with classification model, and made diabetes prediction model of accuracy 95%. What about this? So interesting. Isn't it funny, amazing, a little strong? We can predict diabetes with an accuracy of 95% at a moment. Despite short time, this is AI. These days, the term utilization is usually applied by using AI, VR, AR, and Metaverse. In reality, we made AI model using machine learning model. I will show you a case that I gave a lesson with AI. Everyone, we had AI practical exercise and made AI model predicting growth onset diabetes. So I will show you actual class that I did. Like this, I gave an AI lesson using Orange. I did a project lesson. Students made AI model by themselves and presented. This is a feature doing online presentation. There are so precious fish species, so-edged perch in Jeju Island. There is king jabari, crossbred from China. People sell king jabari instead of so-edged perch, conceiving people. To improve the problem of fish market, they made AI classifying crossbred and saw-edged perch through the image recognition. One student made AI predicting the happiness of nation through national GDP, liberty of the press, and environment. Further, he made model self-estimating the happiness. This student dreams of becoming a Korean language teacher. He chose my class because he started to be interested in AI due to my class. Students who are likely to be liberal arts can make good model if they learn AI. So the unification of liberal arts and science become more important. While a student made a model predicting real estate and apartment price for Jeju Island. He made the two models predicting appraised value of land and actual trade. He can investigate the gap of 11.7 times. Because increase of real estate price is the problematic, he made AI solving such societic problems. So far, this is our children linked with AI. And the children are learning the way predict in the future by studying from the past. Despite short time, you feel fun and strength of AI. Further learn AI, and please teach children. That's all. My AI lesson is done. Thank you for listening.